Okay, in this video we're going to work on our backend API routes as well as interacting with MongoDB. Now you can install MongoDB locally on your machine, but what we're going to do is set up a remote MongoDB database using MLab. Alright, so if you go to mlab.com, you can go ahead and sign up and you get something like 500 megabytes free, and that's plenty for what we're doing here. It's way more than enough. You want to just sign up for a free account, go ahead and log in, and once you're logged in you should see something like this. And what we want to do is say create new. We want to create a new MongoDB deployment, and what we need to do is select a cloud provider. Amazon Web Services is the default, and that's what we're going to choose. And then down here you can see some of these premium accounts. These are really expensive. What you want to do is click single node and then the sandbox account, which is absolutely free. Alright, and then down here we need to give it a database name. We'll say mean to-dos app and create new deployment. The name might be unique. You may have to choose something different. I'm not sure though. Oh yeah, as you can see, that database name isn't available. So let's say mean to-dos app 01. And let's see, do I have to choose this again? Alright, so let's try that. Alright, so you can see that that was created. So we now have a MongoDB deployment. If we click on that, it takes us to a page like this. And the first thing we need to do here is add a user. So if we click on users and then add database user and just put whatever you'd like. I'm just going to use my name for both username and password. And you also have the ability to make it read only if you'd like. Alright, so we'll click create. Now we have a database user. Next thing we want to do is we're going to create a collection. So if we go to collections and then add collection, we're going to call it to-dos and create. Alright, so now that we have a collection, we can actually add data through this interface. We'll click on the to-dos collection here, and let's say add document, and let's go ahead and add a to-do. Alright, so we're going to just add, let's say, text. Actually, we're going to put quotes around that. So text, say go out to dinner. And let's also put, we'll say is completed, and let's set that to false. Okay, we're just going to do that. Now if we click on create and go back, now you can see that we have a to-do. It has a text field, it is completed, and also has an ID, an underscore ID, which is an object ID. Alright, and I actually want to edit that because I don't want this I to be uppercase. Alright, so let's go ahead and add a couple more. We'll say add document. So this will be text. We'll say go food shopping. Is completed, we'll set to false. Alright, and we'll add one more. Text will be meeting at work. Is completed will be false. Okay, so we now have a MongoDB database set up. We have a to-dos collection and we have some to-dos. So let's go back to our application now. And we're going to want to go into our to-dos route here. And we got to bring in Mongo.js to be able to work with MongoDB. So let's create a variable called Mongo.js. And we're going to set that to require Mongo.js. Okay, next thing we need to do is create a variable called db and set that to Mongo.js, And then in here we need to connect to our database. So if we go back to MLab and we click on the database name right here, you can see that it gives us a connection string. Okay, we want this one right here. So let's copy that. Yours will be different. And we're going to paste that in. And then we just want to replace this with our username and this with our password. Okay, so that should do it. Now what we want to do is go to our get route here, get rid of this, and we should be able to do db dot and then our collection with just to-dos, and then we want to find, and in here we can pass in a function, and that's going to take in an error if there is one, and also we're going to get our to-dos back. Okay, and then what we'll do is check to see if there is an error. So we'll say if error, then let's do res.send the error, and then else. If there's no error, we would just want to say res.json, and we want to pass in the to-dos that we're getting back from our database. And actually, I don't think we put our collection in the connection string. Yeah, so after this right here, we're going to put in a comma, and then this is going to be an array of the collections you want to use. So we just have one collection called to-dos. All right, so we're going to save that, and then we're going to restart the server and go back. And you want to go to localhost 3000/API/v1/to-dos. And there we go. So you can see that these are now being fetched from our MongoDB database. Alright, so now what we want to do is add some other routes. This one here is to get all to-dos. And then let's do one to get single to-do. I don't want that S there. Alright, so to get single to-do, we're going to say router.get and pass in the URL, which is going to be /to-do/:ID. Okay, the colon's there because this is actually a variable or a placeholder. Okay, the to-do ID will be different depending on what to-do we're trying to look at. So let's say function okay, and let's see, what do we want to do? We want to say db.todos, and this time we're going to use find one. Okay, so find one, I'm going to pass in an object here, _ID, MongoJS.object ID, because it's a certain data type that MongoJS uses for the ID called an object ID. So we want to pass in whatever comes in here as the ID, we can pass into this. And the way that we get that is by request.params.id. Alright, and then we'll have another parameter here which will be a function. Okay, that function is going to take error and to do. Okay, just like up here, we're going to test for the error. If there is one, we'll send it. If not, then we just want to send to do. So let's save that. And now let's take one of these ID numbers here and make this go to /to-do/ and then put in that ID. I cannot get, oh, we got to restart the server, that's right. And there we go. Okay, so we're fetching that single to-do. Alright, now we need a couple more routes. We need one to save a to-do. Alright, now we're not really actually going to get to use these yet until we work on our client-side application, but nevertheless, I just want to get them in here. Alright, so this will save to-do, And for this, now when we save data, it's going to be through a post request. So we want to say router.post, and the route is going to be just /to-do. Okay, and then we're going to have function, and let's see, in here we're going to say var to-do, and we're going to set it to request.body. Okay, so that's going to be coming in from a form. And then we want to do a little bit of validation. We want to check to make sure that text is there. So we'll say if not to-do.text, and then we'll do or with double pipe characters, not to-do dot is completed, and then we just want to concatenate just an empty string here. All right, so if that happens, then we want to say res.status. We want to change the status to 400, and then we just want to say res.json, and we're going to send along an object with an error. Okay, so we'll say error, and we'll just say invalid data. Okay, so that's how we'll handle the error. So let's put an else here. Okay, if everything's okay, then we're going to say db.todos.save, and in here we're going to pass in that to-do and then a function. Okay, function will have error and let's say result, and then we just want to check for that error. I'm just going to copy this. Okay, and let's just change that to result. Alright, so that's our save to do. Now we want one to update. So what I'll do is just copy this, paste it in. Now this is going to be a put request since it's an update. So we're going to say put, and then we also need an ID, so we're going to say /:ID. And we're going to leave that. We're going to get the to-do that's submitted. Alright, and then let's see. We're going to create a new object going by what is submitted. So we'll create a variable called UPD OBJ for updated object. And for now, we'll set that to an empty object. Alright, and then we want to check to see if the to-do is completed. So we'll say if to-do dot is completed equals, actually we want to put the updated object. Updated object dot is completed is equal to to-do dot is completed. No, I'm sorry, that's not right. That was right the first time. We're going to check to see if it's completed. And then if it is, then we're going to say update object dot is completed is going to equal to-do dot is completed. Okay, sorry if that was confusing. And then we're going to check for the text. So if to-do dot text, then we're going to set the updated object dot text equal to to-do.text. Alright, and then here we're going to just check for the object, make sure that it's there. So if not updated object, then we're going to send along an error with invalid data. Alright, and then else, actually that should only be one. Else, then we don't want to do a save, we want to do .update. Okay, and then we want to pass in, actually, you know what I'm going to do is get rid of all this. Okay, so we want db.todos.update, pass in an object. It's going to have an underscore ID. and we want MongoJS dot object ID. Pass in the request dot params dot ID, and let's see, go right here and put a comma, and then we want the actual updated object, and then the next parameter is going to be an empty set of curly braces, and then finally we have our function. Okay, and that function will take error and result. Okay, and then we just want to check for an error, so let's just grab that, and that's it. Okay, and then the final thing we need to do is to be able to delete to-dos. So we'll just type it out. We'll say router, and this is going to be a delete request, and we're going to pass in the path, which will be /todo/:ID. Now you might notice that this is the same as this one, it's the same as this one. The reason we can do that is because we're using different methods. This is a get request, this is a put, this is a delete. Okay, so they're all treated differently. Put our function, and we'll say request res and next. Oops. And then in here, what we'll do is db.todos.remove, and then in here we're going to pass the object, the ID, which will be the object ID. Okay, that's going to come from request.params.id. And then let's go right here, put a comma, an empty set of quotes here, and then our function. All right, this is just for options, which we don't have any, so it's blank. Grab that. All right, and that should do it. So this is the back end for our CRUD application. It's going to create, read, update, and delete. So that'll do it. Like I said, we can't really test that now. I mean, we could if we had some if we used curl or something like that. But I mean, it's not that much code. So if there is in fact some kind of bug, we'll find it quickly when we start to interact with it. All right, so in the next video, we're going to start to create the client, which means we're going to start to work in Angular 2 to interact with our backend API.